Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 58. I am so happy that you're here today because we are going to start a little story with malice and we're going to end with marvel. We're going to ask the question today, and I think I'll title this, What Must I Render to God? So this story has the famous line, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. So we start today with the story that's in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I'm going to read it in Luke chapter 20. But before we do, let me just set up the story. So we have a plot to try to entangle Jesus, and he's aware of it. He's aware of the malice. He's aware that this is going to be a test of him and a trap for him. And he knows the hypocrisy of the people and the craftiness of the people that are pretending to ask the question sincerely, but they're not. They're trying to catch him. So we're going to start with this milieu of malice, and then we're going to end up eventually with marvel. We'll get there. So let me read. This is Luke chapter 20, and this is verse 19. The scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at that very hour, for they perceived that he had told this parable against them, but they feared the people. So they watched him and sent spies who pretended to be sincere, that they might catch him in something he said, so as to deliver him up to the authority and the jurisdiction of the governor. They're so bad they want to turn him over to the Romans. Verse 21. So they asked him, Teacher, we know that you speak and teach rightly and show no partiality, but truly teach the way of God. And then here we go. Verse 22. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar or not? But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, Show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have? They said, Caesar's. He said to them, Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. And they were not able in the presence of the people to catch him in what he said, but marveling at his answer, they became silent. So we have a group of very bad people, and this is how bad they are. They want to catch him with something he says, and then they want to turn him over to the evil, conquered, occupying army of Rome. He wanted to turn him over to the Romans. And Jesus just is so wise here. And so he does this little technique. And let's talk about the technique about this show and tell. He says, Show me a quarter. And I did this morning. And he says, simple question, whose likeness is on the quarter? Now, I got that right. And then do this today. I've carried a quarter around with me most days of my life, thousands and thousands of days, and I was not able to correctly tell you what the inscription said on the United States quarter. And I will bet you that you will not be able to tell me the words that are on a quarter or on the back side of the quarter if you happen to get the front side correct. I didn't even get the front side correct. So he's asking the people to look at a simple thing at a quarter in a new way, and then he's going to take that home and say, look at me in a new way. Look at your relationship with God in a new way as well, in a way you've never seen before. And Luke has a very interesting thing here. He says the question for them is not, is it lawful us to pay taxes? This word that's used in the Gospel of Luke, the other two use taxes. Is it lawful for us to give tribute to Caesar? Now, tribute is that which is brought in as payment to a state with an implication of dependent status. So it hints at allegiance and it hints at lordship. And so this is a story not about money. This is a story about allegiance. This is a story about who do we yield to. So eventually he says, render to Caesar, give to Caesar. And the word render means to give out or to yield both an obligation, like what are you contractually obligated to give this organization, to give this government? In other words, what do you give with your hands? But also this rendering to God implies a rendering of your heart. What do you yield? So you yield, part of the things is what you yield with your hands, but then there's this other part of yielding with your heart. So I was thinking, okay, so what do I owe God? What has God given me? Well, he's given me this body and this breath of life. He's helped me with my faith and repentance, all the abilities I had, all the giftings, the ability to use my mind. And like the coin is, in a sense, I bear his image. And was really touched today. Even the breath of life. I mean, that may be snatched in a second. Glory to him. So I'm obligated, just with this overt kind of stuff, I'm obligated to pay my taxes to the Lord, if I will, and yield to him. I just owe him so much. And then he says, on top of this, he says, I want you to see in a new way, like with the coin, I want you to see me in a new way. And think about this. What does God give us? He gives us a relationship with him. This is from Genesis 15, verse 1, my favorite one. I am your great reward. You get me. You get a relationship with me. Well, now the obligation goes way up. It's not just a tax and a tithe, if you will, and productivity of my hands. Now it's a yielding of my heart. So now I owe him this worship of my heart because he's given me this relationship. So I think the point of the story here is you don't know what's on a quarter. You don't know what's inscribed on a quarter. Look at it in a new way. Look at your obligation to God and what he's done for us, and then render to him the appropriate response. So part of it is your hands and your honesty and your development of your character and those kind of things. But I was most touched today is the yielding of my heart. That's what I am supposed to be rendering to God. So join me. Guess what's on a quarter, look at it, be wrong, and then look what you're rendering to God, what you owe to God, and you'll probably be wrong about that too. Thanks for listening.